Yes, the Aston Martin of Ross Gunn in the lead. Alex Fontana on the right, crowded out, down into third place. Will Bamber up into second position. So I wonder if the 50-kilogram success ballast on Alex Fontana's car contributed to that sluggish start. Ross Gunn, remember, in the lead, doesn't have any success ballast because that car went off earlier in yesterday's race. And look at the lead that he's already got at the front. Fantastic start from the British driver. Will Bamber up to second from fourth on the grid. Alex Fontana in third place and being challenged very closely by Charlie Fagg in the 517 McLaren there as they come down to turn 11 for the first time. Charlie Fagg going to the outside. No room for a pass just yet, but Charlie Fagg getting very close behind Alex Fontana, who seemed very sluggish out of the corners. And again, I wonder if that's the success ballast coming back to haunt him a little bit as Charlie Fagg going to the outside. They're side by side as they come to the right-hander at turn 12, but Alex Fontana with the inside line manages to cover that position, going very wide. You don't want to go too wide there because there's not much space. Alex Fontana going defensive now with Charlie Fagg all over the back of him as they come round the right-hander at turn 13. One of the other Mercedes there going a bit wide, that is Liang in 6th position, I think. And Wen in the BMW, the number 17 car, up into 5th. Fontana going wide again. They're using all of the road and a little bit more as they come round to finish lap 1 here at Tianjin. And it's Ross Gunn in the lead. Will Bamber in 2nd position. Alex Fontana 3rd. Charlie Fagg in 4th. Wen in 5th place. Liang in 6th position. Wang Hao up to 7th from starting 8th on the grid. Gao Yang in the 87 car down to 8th place, and Liang bringing up the rear still in 9th position in the 868 car. But as they come through this sweeping 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 complex, the S's very difficult to overtake here. Alex Fontana still fending off the advances of Charlie Fagg in 4th place. This the battle for 3rd. Those are your two leaders there going through. And Will Bamber looked as if he was getting very close behind Ross Gunn. It looked on the first lap as if Ross Gunn was pulling away a little bit, but Will Bamber looked fairly close as they went through the double left-hander. As Charlie Fagg now again going to the outside, Alex Fontana going defensive. And the Swiss driver lives to fight another day, runs a little wide, but it looks like he's got good drive, and he should stay in that 3rd place as they come onto this longest straight on the track. Plenty of overtaking opportunities here. Fontana weaving this way and that, trying to keep Charlie Fagg behind him. Charlie Fagg clearly in the quicker car at this stage of the race, but he just can't quite find a way past Alex Fontana, the Swiss driver, a very experienced campaigner. This his first season in China GT and driving very well and leading the Drivers' Championship. Alex Fontana certainly no slouch, and he knows his way around a GT4 car, so he will make it very difficult for Charlie Fagg to overtake him as they come round the last corner to start lap 3 here at Tianjin. Ross Gunn still in the lead, a 1:44.8, the fastest lap of the race. Will Bamber a 1:44.9, just 9/10 of a second behind him, so the New Zealander very much keeping him honest, as Wang Hao looking for a move up the inside of Liang, but not enough room there. Liang goes a little wide though. Wang Hao up there into 7th or 6th position now. Wang Hao from 8th on the grid, and he's now got Wen, his fellow BMW driver, in his sights. So Wang Hao up to 6th. Wang Hao had a very good race yesterday, was lying 2nd for a large portion of it before ultimately having to give best and settle for 4th place. But Wang Hao drove very well. Started last on the grid yesterday after problems in qualifying, but made his way up the field very effectively indeed. Meanwhile, look at this, Charlie Fagg going very close now behind Alex Fontana as they come up to the hairpin at turn 6, whilst we're looking at the battle a bit further down the field. This is Wang Hao challenging Wen and Liang just behind in the number 6 Mercedes. Wen still holding on to 5th place. And there is Charlie Fagg again challenging Alex Fontana, going around the outside, but Fontana with the inside line protecting that. Very close to going into the wall there, Charlie Fagg. You don't want to run too wide on that piece of escape road. But Ross Gunn still in the lead. Will Bamber still 2nd. Fontana still clinging on to 3rd place, holding off the advances of Charlie Fagg. And Charlie Fagg will want to get by as quickly as possible because it looks as if he's being held up now by Fontana. Charlie Fagg will want to clear the Swiss driver as quickly as he can and then set off in pursuit of Will Bamber in second place, and then Ross Gunn in the lead. Ross Gunn's lead now 1.5 seconds. The British driver just setting another fastest lap of the race, 1:44.4. The gap you see between Fontana and Charlie Fagg there, 0.487. So Charlie Fagg within half a second of Alex Fontana, who runs very wide as they go through the left-hander there. But Fontana driving very sensibly. Looks as if he's got his eyes very firmly focused on his rear-view mirror there as they go through the double right-hander. And that's one of the cars into the pits there. That is the 868 McLaren serving his drive-through penalty. Now, that was imposed after yesterday's race when Luo Kai-luo was adjudged to have been at fault for the two collisions that he had, firstly with Kuo Kuo Shin on the first lap and then with David Pun on lap 2, both at the hairpin at turn 11, as Charlie Fagg now going to the inside, but not quite close enough for a move on Alex Fontana as they go through turn 11. Thankfully, nobody coming a cropper there at the hairpin just yet. A little too much in the way of incident there yesterday, as Alex Fontana again going very defensive, protecting that inside line. Now that prevents Charlie Fagg from overtaking, but it does compromise his exit, and they go very wide again as they go through. And Charlie Fagg moving to the outside again. Charlie Fagg looking as if he might be getting a little impatient, having to wait behind Alex Fontana, who looked as if he went wide there going out of the corner, and I wonder if that might compromise his exit again there. Alex Fontana having to go defensive as they go through the chicane. That 50 kilograms of success ballast clearly making that Mercedes very difficult to handle, but he's still there, still holding on to third place. Ross Gunn still in the lead ahead of Will Bamber, and the front two are dropping these two at a rate of about a second a lap as Charlie Fagg goes up the inside into turn 1 but runs wide, and Alex Fontana reclaims that third position. So Alex Fontana still in third. Charlie Fagg can't find a way to make that move stick. He went to the inside of turn 1 but couldn't slow his car down enough, ended up running wide on the outside, and Alex Fontana took the position back. Good racing between these two. This is what we want to see. Nice close racing, nice clean racing. And Charlie Fagg desperately looking for a way through, but Alex Fontana defending very stoutly so far as they go through this tricky double left-hander. Not much room for an overtake there. Ross Gunn still in the lead, Will Bamber still in second place, and Fontana still holding on. Charlie Fagg weaving this way and that, trying to find a way through, but Alex Fontana protecting his line, driving very sensibly. Of course, he's perfectly entitled to try to drive defensively to keep Charlie Fagg behind him. This is a battle for position, but Charlie Fagg looks as if he got much better drive, and it looks as if he's ahead now. And Charlie Fagg indeed is now up into third place. He got much better drive, it seemed, coming out of turn 11, and with that long straight, Alex Fontana was just a sitting duck, and there was no way to keep him behind. So Charlie Fagg up into third place now. Fontana down to fourth as he just runs a little bit wide there, takes a lot of the curb on the exit of the right-hander. A little bit of smoke there, locking up from the 570 of Charlie Fagg. I should think now he'll be very keen to set off in hot pursuit of Will Bamber and Ross Gunn up at the head of the field. One of the side effects when you're battling for position like this, when you're attacking and defending, is that you're often compromised, because if you're attacking, you can't take the best line that you want to because you're trying to overtake the guy in front, and if you're defending, you often end up taking the defensive line to the inside, and that compromises your outright speed through the corners. So it'll be interesting to see now if Charlie Fagg can close that gap. This is the battle for fifth place between the two BMWs of Chi Pei-wen and Wang Hao. Wang Hao looks like he's getting very close to the back of Chi Pei-wen, who goes defensive around the right-hander. Wang Hao now to the inside, and can he move up the inside? Not quite close enough, and then very difficult to overtake in these tricky sweeping S-bends in the middle of the track. The 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 complex. This is the tricky double left-hander at turn 9 and 10. No margin for error there, very unforgiving concrete barriers on both sides. And Wang Hao now goes to the outside. Chi Pei-wen taking his normal racing line. Wang Hao not close enough for a move just yet. But Wang Hao did drive very well yesterday. Clearly had that BMW hooked up just as he likes it, and seemed like he was enjoying himself around the tight turns and the tight confines of this V1 Auto World Circuit here in Tianjin. As Chia Wen brakes hard down for the right-hander at turn 12. A short blast of acceleration now before hard braking again to the right-hander at turn 13. Lots of 90-degree turns here. Very reminiscent of a street circuit, even though it is a purpose-built track. Hard braking again now for the chicane at turns 14 and 15. Chia Wen still in 5th place. Wang Hao still in 6th. As they come round the double right-hander, this is the last couple of corners at 16 and 17. And then across the line they go to start lap 7 here at the V1 Auto World Circuit in Tianjin. Ross Gunn still in the lead, Will Bamber still in 2nd place, Charlie Fagg in 3rd, Fontana down to 4th place, and then this is the battle for 5th between Chia Wen and Wang Hao. Just behind you can see the number 6 Phantom Pro Racing Mercedes of Liang in 7th place. In 8th place is the 87 car. That is the KTM Crossbow, the extreme motorsports car run at the moment by Gao Yang, and he'll cross over to Wei Tianyi in the mid-race pit window. That car in 8th position. And 9th, bringing up the rear after that stop-go penalty, is the 868 McLaren, currently driven by Lei Ke, who will hand over to Luo Kailuo later, and Wang Hao getting very close to the back of Chia Wen as they come to the hairpin at turn 11, but not quite close enough for a move. Chia Wen living to fight another day. His first China GT appearance of the season this weekend, Chia Wen. Wang Hao, a regular in that 999 Team Master Champ BMW. Both identical cars, both driving the BMW M4 GT4, but Chia Wen, his car is run by the FIST Team AAI squad, who have 3 cars in this afternoon's GT3 race. Wang Hao's Team Master Champ BMW, the only representative from that team, as we look at Ross Gunn, who now has a lead of 2.6 seconds over Will Bamber in 2nd place. And Will Bamber, the New Zealand driver, in turn 5.8 seconds ahead of Charlie Fagg, who's not making much headway. Will Bamber's last lap a 1:45.2, Charlie Fagg a 1:45.3, so in fact he's lost a tenth of a second to Will Bamber. Thought perhaps that Charlie Fagg might be making a little bit more headway now that he's got past Alex Fontana and got a bit of clear air, but still 5.8 seconds behind. Alex Fontana just 1.5 seconds behind in 4th place, so he's not been dropped too much. There he is. That's the battle for 3rd place now, with Charlie Fagg ahead of Alex Fontana. And almost a quarter of the race having run now. 46.5 minutes of the 1 hour still to go here this morning at Tianjin. And of course, in just over 10 minutes' time, the pit window will open. That pit window is open for 10 minutes. All the drivers have to come into the pits during this time and stop on their marks for their allotted pit stop time. And those drivers, as Alex Fontana goes very wide there, he needs to be careful he doesn't go too wide, because that looks like a very unforgiving tyre barrier there, ready to catch any drivers out who run a little too wide there. As I was saying before then, all the drivers have to stop on their marks for an allotted time, and those drivers in a pairing, that's when they swap over. So Ross Gunn, the leader, will swap over for David Pun, who we heard from on the grid. Will Bamber will swap over for his teammate Kuo Kuo Shin. Charlie Fagg will swap over for Dong Liang, and Alex Fontana will swap over for Chris Chia. Now, of course, Ross Gunn didn't get the chance to drive yesterday's race. Neither did Lei Ke, who was Luo Kailuo's teammate, because they had that collision on lap 2. Unfortunately had to retire. But one of the good things about the China GT Championship is that the starting order is reversed. So whichever driver in the driver pairing started race 9 yesterday, they will go second in race 10 today. Charlie Fagg and Lei Ke were due to drive second yesterday, but because their teammates retired early on, they didn't get a chance to drive. So this is a rule that basically ensures that every driver will at least be driving for some portion of the race weekend. Ross Gunn, having not driven at all in round 9 yesterday, is clearly making up for lost time in round 10 today, still in the lead. 2.7 seconds ahead of Will Bamber. And Will Bamber 6.6 seconds ahead now of this man, Charlie Fagg, who still has Alex Fontana in his sights. Judging by how he was swarming all over the back of the Swiss driver earlier in the race, I thought Charlie Fagg might be pulling away at a greater rate, but Alex Fontana still keeping him honest, and Charlie Fagg not making any headway into the gap between him and Will Bamber. In fact, he lost a second almost to Will Bamber on that last lap. Charlie Fagg a 1:45.4, Will Bamber a 1:44.6. So the New Zealander taking another 0.8 of a second out, as Wang Hao now up into 5th place. So Wang Hao has overtaken Chia Wen, his fellow BMW driver, who is now down to 6th position. So Wang Hao quite a way behind Alex Fontana at the moment. We'll see just how big that gap is when they cross the start-finish line. But Wang Hao nevertheless up now into 5th place from 8th on the grid, so again making up some useful places. 17.7 seconds behind Alex Fontana, so that's a long way for Wang Hao to claw back. But nevertheless, there he is, up into 5th place. Chia Wen down to 6th. Liang in the number 6 car still in 7th place. As Chia Wen going up the inside and they bang wheels. That looked a little bit optimistic from Chia Wen. I think Wang Hao was taken a little bit by surprise. I don't think he expected his fellow BMW driver to make a lunge up the inside there, but thankfully no harm done. We saw a few incidents yesterday where some rather optimistic overtaking moves like that led to cars being put out of the race, but thankfully Wang Hao and Chia Wen still very much in the race, still very much at racing speed. And Chia Wen clearly not giving up easily without a fight. Had a little look there, but not quite close enough. Wang Hao still in 5th place, Chia Wen in 6th. And Rosgan still leading the race. 42.5 minutes still to go. The pit window will open when that clock that you see in the top middle of your picture ticks down and shows 35 minutes to go. And this is the battle for 3rd place. Fontana really getting close again to Charlie Fagg. And Charlie Fagg now just the gap just over half a second. So Alex Fontana took half a second out of Charlie Fagg on that lap. Fontana, the Swiss driver, going slowly at the beginning of the race, started on pole position and now ending up now down in 4th place, but he seems to be a little happier at the moment than Charlie Fagg, who for whatever reason just doesn't seem to have the speed. And Fontana getting very close as they go through turn 4 and 5. Fontana, remember, has 50 kilograms of success ballast in his car. Charlie Fagg himself has to carry 35 kilograms around. Got a little bit out of shape there, Charlie Fagg. Had to correct a little bit as they went through turn 9, and that looks to have compromised his exit onto this long straight. Don't think Fontana is close enough for a move just yet. This corner very, very tough on brakes. We've seen lots of cars struggling to slow down there today and in yesterday's races too. Charlie Fagg still holding on to 3rd place. Fontana still 4th, with just over 2/3 of the race still to run. Alex Fontana, he likes that wide line through that right-hander, Alex Fontana, but he's going to have to be careful he doesn't run too wide and collect that tyre barrier. Thankfully, we've seen nobody do that so far today or so far this weekend. But Fontana looking up the inside there. Not really close enough for a move up there, and indeed this isn't really a place where you'd be looking to overtake. We haven't seen anybody make any serious moves there, almost nudging the back there. Fontana seems so much quicker than Charlie Fagg as they go through the last couple of corners. That double right-hander at 16 and 17, flashing his lights there, letting Charlie Fagg know that he's there. I'm sure Charlie Fagg is very well aware of where Alex Fontana is. We'll have his rear view mirrors absolutely full of the Swiss driver. Just 2.9 or 0.29 seconds, I should say, the gap now between the two drivers. And conversely, in contrast to the early stages of the race, now it looks like Alex Fontana, the man chasing Charlie Fagg, is the quicker of the two drivers. Earlier on, it looked as if Charlie Fagg was very much the quicker, and indeed he did then get past Fontana, but the roles have been reversed now. Charlie Fagg was slow through there the previous lap. It looks as if he's all right there this lap. Fontana going to the outside. Well, this will be the inside for the next corner, but not quite close enough for a lunge up the inside there. Charlie Fagg living to fight another day. Now let's see what their speed is like on the straight here, because when Charlie Fagg overtook Fontana earlier in the race, it was thanks to a very quick and clean exit off the hairpin at turn 11, which leads onto that very long straight. And good drive off the hairpin means you get on the power earlier, and that is of paramount importance when you're about to negotiate a very long straight like the one between turns 11 and 12. That is how Charlie Fagg got past, and maybe that is how Fontana will be looking to get past the British driver as he closes up. It seems in this tight, twisty section of the track, Fontana closes up really very closely indeed towards the back of Charlie Fagg. Look how close they are now as they go through the last corner, but Charlie Fagg just seems to be able to edge away on the straight, and maybe that is just a side effect of that extra weight on Alex Fontana's car at the moment. So Charlie Fagg just pulling away by about a tenth of a second there. 0.35 the gap now. Alex Fontana not close enough for a lunge up the inside anywhere at the moment, but he's certainly keeping Charlie Fagg honest as they go through these sweeping curves. And again, it seems as if going through these medium speed corners that the McLaren has the edge, but in the slower speed corners, that's where Fontana seems to be making up the time and seems to be getting close to the back. And it looked as if Charlie Fagg was slow off turn 10 there. It looked as if Fontana got a much better exit, but again, the McLaren just seems to have the legs on the straight. Fontana never seems to be close enough when they come up to one of the tight hairpin bends, such as that at turn 11 that they've just gone through now. This is the long straight I was talking about, where it's very important to get good drive. And again, Charlie Fagg, this is where he seems to ease away from Fontana, who again likes taking that wide line through turn 12. Doesn't seem to be doing him any harm at the moment. And again, taking the wide line through 13 as well. Driving on the ragged edge, Alex Fontana, trying to find a way by. Looking up the inside, but again, not close enough as they come through turn 14 and 15. But he doesn't get very close when they're going through those final corners. A little bit of opposite lock there from Charlie Fagg. You can see his hands in the cockpit there, just working away, trying to keep that McLaren pointed in the right direction and keep Alex Fontana behind him as they cross the line to start lap 14. The gap now 0.48 seconds as they go through the start-finish straight to start another lap, lap 14. Charlie Fagg, a little bit of a lock-up there. You can see how hard he's working, trying to keep Fontana behind him. He wants to be sure that he doesn't lock up too much, because then you'll flat spot your tyres, and then they won't be as effective. You won't have as much grip, and maybe he'll have to go for a tyre change during his mandatory pit stop. There's no obligation to change tyres when you come in for your mandatory stop. All you have to do is sit on your marks. We have seen drivers occasionally in the China GT Championship changing tyres, but we haven't seen too much of that this weekend as Charlie Fagg brakes hard down towards the hairpin at turn 11. Alex Fontana looked as if he got much better drive. Charlie Fagg just got a little bit wide there. It seemed like he struggled to get the power on, and Fontana got better drive, but again the McLaren just seems to edge away on the straight. Fontana weaving this way and that. He shouldn't really be doing that too much. It's not considered good practice to weave like that. It's all right when you're just moving back to take your racing line, but Fontana weaving a lot on the straight there, trying to distract Charlie Fagg and pressure him into making a mistake. And he's got the inside line here, but again he's not quite close enough. Charlie Fagg, this is where he just locked up a little bit on the previous lap, and look how close Fontana gets as they go through the slow corners. It's almost like he nudges the back of the McLaren, urging him to move over, but then the McLaren quicker on the straight, and Fontana can't find a way through. It's moving to the inside line now, but again, I don't think there's enough space for a lunge up the inside of turn 1 there. No, Charlie Fagg living to fight another day as they go through the double left-hander. And the pit window is now open. We've had 25 minutes of the race, 35 to go. The pit window will be open for the next 10 minutes, and we should start to see some of the drivers coming in for their mandatory stops, as Fontana still swarming all over the back of Charlie Fagg. I should think the first 4 cars, they'll go quite deep into the pit window before they come in and make their stops, because they're being piloted at the moment by the pro drivers, and they will then have to hand over to their amateur counterparts, who in theory would be slower. So in theory you want your faster driver to be driving the larger portion of the race, so I should think we'll see these 4 cars coming in, and that is Liang He coming in from 7th position. So the first pit stop, Liang He leaving his car, and Rainey He coming in, and that car will be stationary for what must seem like an agonizing 73 seconds. Each of these cars has an allotted pit stop time that they have to be stationary for. The mechanics there just checking the tyre pressures, not actually changing tyres, but just making sure that the tyre pressures are as the driver would like. The mechanics and engineers helping Rainey He into his car, as that is the 868 McLaren, being driven by Liang, and he's coming out, and Luo Luo is coming in. Luo Luo, who was in the wars a little bit yesterday, had a collision with Huoko Shin on lap 1, and then a more terminal collision with David Pun on lap 2. And the mechanics there just helping Luo Luo get in the car. That's a 5-point harness that's very difficult to strap by yourself, and here we are now, Charlie Fagg and Alex Fontana. Now this should be interesting. They're coming up to lap Rainey He, who's just come out, and I wonder if Fontana might use this as his advantage, using the back marker to try to get ahead of Charlie Fagg, but it seems as if Charlie Fagg has just managed to hold on to 3rd position. When you have to negotiate back markers like this is when it gets interesting, because the back markers may not cooperate. They should cooperate, of course, but then they may not be in an ideal position on the track to pull over and let those cars by. But anyway, Charlie Fagg staying in 3rd position, Fontana still in 4th place. If you were being cynical, you might say that Rainey He was deliberately trying to hold up Charlie Fagg in order to help his teammate Alex Fontana get past him, although I'm sure that wasn't the case. These drivers are all very professional, and Charlie Fagg in any case still holding on to 3rd position, putting a little bit of daylight between himself and Alex Fontana as we look at the 87 KTM of Gao Yang, who's come out, and Wei Tianyi coming in. You can hear them counting down, and off Wei Tianyi goes for his stint in this GT4 race here at Tianjin. Charlie Fagg still ahead, Alex Fontana still just behind him in 4th place, and behind them is the car of Rainey He, who's just pitted and is therefore 1 lap down. So Rainey He not enjoying or not involved in this battle for position, as Alex Fontana again looks up the inside, but again Charlie Fagg has an answer for him on the straight. And those bollards there on the inside, we saw them being knocked down in one of yesterday's races, as Fontana goes to the inside again, flashing his lights, trying to pressurize Charlie Fagg into a mistake. But the British driver holding firm again. It always looks as if Fontana is quicker off the exit of the corner, but then the McLaren just seems to have the edge in the medium high-speed corners like you see here. But then the slow-speed corners, he just seems desperately slow, and it's almost as if Fontana is nudging him. But then they come onto the straight like this, and the McLaren just seems to sail away. And this is really where he gets his advantage, as they come down to the braking zone at turn 11, still in 3rd place. Fontana still in 4th, and they're approaching, I think, more back markers. So it'll be interesting. Yes, you can see there the 87 KTM in the foreground of your picture, and Charlie Fagg and Alex Fontana will be coming up to that car very soon indeed. And Fontana will want to see if he can use that back marker to pressure Charlie Fagg into a mistake, or maybe see if he can have Charlie Fagg boxed in behind the back marker, behind Wei Tianyi. But either way, it's all part of motor racing, seeing how you can get past your opponent by any means necessary. You see Charlie Fagg's hands there fighting his car as they negotiate the chicane. And with half an hour of the race to go, there's half an hour gone, and into the pits comes Charlie Fagg. Interesting, I thought we might see him go slightly longer into the race, but anyway, there he comes into the pit lane, and he'll hand over to Liang after being stationary on his marks for 75 seconds. There is Liang just getting in, Charlie Fagg coming out, and of course his mechanics there helping him strap himself in. That 5-point harness is very tightly wound, very difficult to put it on by yourself. No tyres being changed on the 570 McLaren. We haven't seen any tyre changes so far this race. We saw a couple yesterday, but the majority of the cars seemed to be not changing tyres, as Alex Fontana here just putting a lap on the 87 car of Tianjin, and his teammate Rainey He following through, and that I think is a move for position, because Rainey He was a lap behind Alex Fontana, just running a little wide there. So Rainey He using Alex Fontana lapping the 87 car to move up a position himself, and that is Chia Wen in for his pit stop. Of course, not getting out of the car because he is driving both stints of the race. No teammate for either Chia Wen or Wang Hao, the two BMW drivers in the race. Chia Wen stationary on his marks for 60 seconds. As we look at Ross Gunn, who we haven't seen much of for the last few minutes, but there he is, still in the lead, 3.3 seconds ahead of Will Bamber in second place. There he is in the background. Neither of those drivers having come in for their mandatory pit stops yet. The pit window is still open for 3 more minutes. So there may just be enough time to finish this lap and then start another one before coming in to the pits, but I should think maybe they'll be coming in at the end of this lap. Will Bamber in second place there, just going through the double left-hander at turns 9 and 10. Ross Gunn in the lead in the foreground, 3.3 seconds ahead of the New Zealander. A 1:44.9 that last lap from Ross Gunn, and a 1:44.6 from Will Bamber. So the New Zealander just taking a couple of tenths out of Ross Gunn, but not a huge amount of time there. Ross Gunn still with a decent lead. And remember, Ross Gunn in that Aston Martin doesn't have a weight penalty, unlike Will Bamber, who has 25 kilograms. This man, Alex Fontana, who has 50, and Liang in the McLaren, who has 35 kilograms extra to lug around with him. Fontana still in third place, some 21 seconds behind Will Bamber now, so that 50 kilograms of ballast must be really hurting the Swiss driver in his bid to close the gap. And into the pits, well, out of the pits goes Wang Hao. You can see the tyre marks being left there, a little bit of burnt rubber. And Ross Gunn and Will Bamber, I see on the timing screen, are now in the pits. Yes, there he is. So Ross Gunn will come out, and David Pun, his teammate, coming in for his stint of the race. There goes David Pun, his mechanic strapping him in there. And out goes Will Bamber, and in comes Kuo Shin. Will Bamber helping his teammate strap himself in. Neither of those cars changing tyres either. So tyre change is clearly not de rigueur this morning here in Tianjin. The weather is slightly cooler than it was yesterday, so those tyres probably not in danger of overheating. Track temperatures around 38 degrees. There is David Pun, all ready to go, waiting for his 73 seconds to have elapsed. And up goes the Lollipop Man, and out goes David Pun. And let's see if he is still in the lead. He's just coming down the pit lane now. You see him in the background, and Kuo Shin still on his marks, being counted down now, and Kuo Shin off and out into the race. And that looks like Alex Fontana there that we just saw. Alex Fontana, the Swiss driver, coming in for his stop, and he will hand over to Chia, who not only is Alex Fontana's teammate, he is also the team owner. So all the drivers having made their pit stops now, the pit window is about to shut, and we have 25 more minutes of racing here at Tianjin, with David Pun now in the lead. Kuo Shin in second place. Let's see where Chris Chia in third place comes out, if he does come out in third place, or if Liang in the McLaren has managed to jump him in the pit stops. Some confusion there, but no confusion up at the front. It's still David Pun in the lead, ahead of Guo Shin in second place. And it'll be interesting to see what that gap is when the two drivers cross the line. Guo Shin was spun around yesterday by Luo Kai Luo on lap 1, but he managed to keep the engine running and keep his car in the race, which is more than can be said for David Pun, who took quite a whack to his front left and his suspension too badly damaged to continue, unfortunately for him. So he'll want to put up a good showing now, David Pun, and what better way to do that than by leading the race. 24 minutes still to go. David Pun taking a lot of curb there as he negotiates the exit of turn 15 and comes across the line to start another lap. The pit window is closed now, confirmation of that. The marshal holding out the sign there. And Guo Shin took a little bit of time out of David Pun on that lap. The gap now 1.97 seconds. David Pun taking a lot of curb there and a lot of escape road. Guo Shin not quite so much. And this is the battle for the lead as they go through the double right-hander. This is turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, and turn 7, and now turn 8, and the double left-hander at turns 9 and 10. David Pun getting slightly out of shape there, but no major harm done, as both drivers come out of turn 10 and onto this long straight. Heavy braking now down to turn 11. Very neat and tidy from David Pun there. He'll need a neat and tidy exit, because if he doesn't, Guo Shin will punish him on this straight, where we've seen plenty of drivers get close to their opponents as well. Turn 12 now. And on to another long straight, before braking hard down to the right-hander, the 90-degree turn at turn 13. And yet another straight. Very important to get the entry and the exits of the corners right here at the V1 Auto World Circuit in Tianjin. Lots of long straights and lots of tight corners, and very important to get good entry speed onto the long straight, because if you don't, if you get a bad exit from the previous corner, that will hurt you all the way down the straight. David Pun crossing the line to start lap 22, and the gap now 2.1 seconds. David Pun with a 1:47.9 and Guo Shin a 1:48.1 on that last lap. And let's head down to the pit lane and hear more from Sophie now.
好，在我身旁的6月8号赛车的 Rose starting from second place, but with lots of very strong competitor just next to you. How is your finish for your first part? How is your finish for your first part?
Yeah, it was a good stint. We started second, so we managed to get a good start. We managed to get the jump at the start. And then, yeah, from there, it was just a case of keeping consistent, trying to make sure that I saved a good car for my teammate at the end. And I think that hopefully has paid off in terms of our strategy. We're a little bit unlucky yesterday. We were running second and then, unfortunately, had to retire due to contact. So hopefully we can put it right today and get a good result.
Thank you so much, Ross, and just keep an eye on for David.
I'll say one thing. Happy birthday, Dad.
Oh, your dad's birthday! Happy birthday to your dad as well. 好的，那 Rose 呢也是跟我们大家分享了一下，在他的部分是完成的非常不错的。虽然从第2发车，但是能够顺利在第1个弯的时候就已经超到第1，而且呢，在换人的环节也是一直保持到目前为止。也希望他的搭档潘君玲能在接下来的比赛当中发挥的不错。那同样呢，我们在说到刚刚 Rose 呢也是说今天是他的爸爸的生日，所以呢也是在这里祝他爸爸生日快乐。那接下来时间呢，就将我们的现场转交回解说间 ，cross back to your guys.
Well, Ross Gunn and his teammate David Pun in the middle of giving Ross Gunn's father the best birthday present possible, because they've been leading the race all race long so far. Ross Gunn, as he said just now, got the jump at the start, managed to take the lead and then handed over his car to David Pan, who is still in the lead with 2/3 of the race gone and 1/3 still to go. Further down the field, this is the battle for 6th position between Chia Wen and Rainey He. Rainey He climbing all over the back of the BMW, almost nudging the back there. Rainey He going to the inside, but Chia Wen managing to hold that position. Interesting to see when that Mercedes car brakes, just how much the car dips at the front when the weight transfers to the front of the car when these drivers are braking hard. And they do brake hard a lot here at this V1 Auto World circuit. A very tough circuit on brakes. We had several drivers complaining or mentioning yesterday how tough this car was on the brakes. And Chia went going a little wide there, and that will hurt him coming out of the first corner. Rainey He now right on the BMW's tail, flashing his lights, trying to put Chia Wen off, but no room for a move up the inside there. But Rainey He just taking a little bit too much curb on the inside there, and that's going to compromise his exit. And then onto the S's. Chia Wen again with a little bit of breathing space and living to fight another day. But Chia Wen needs to be careful because he ran a little bit wide there, and that really hurt him. And if he'd had a long straight after that, then Rainey He could well have been passed. Just shows you how important it is to get your corner exits right when you have a long straight immediately afterwards. Meanwhile, this is Dong Liang and Wang Hao. Wang Hao up into 4th position now. So Wang Hao again had a very good race yesterday and going well again today. He's passed Chia, who is down in 5th place now, and Dong Liang in the 570 McLaren now having to hold off Wang Hao. They go round the double right-hander at the last corner to start another lap with just under 18 minutes to go. Dong Liang in 3rd place, Wang Hao in 4th place. Wang Hao taking half a second out of Dong Liang on that last lap and having a look up the inside as they go around the inside, and Dong Liang going wide and Wang Hao up the inside into, does he? Yes, into 3rd position. And Dong Liang taking a lot of escape road there, and that is Chia Wen. Chia Wen having a spin. Well, we saw Chia Wen battling with Rainey He just a few moments ago, and this is Wang Hao now up again into 3rd place. So it's all action, all go here at Tianjin. And I wonder if there's been a little bit of contact there, because look at the left front light on Dong Liang's McLaren. Looks as if it's just been pushed in a little bit there. I wonder if he had a little bit of contact with Wang Hao there that we didn't quite see. But I wonder if Dong Liang gave that place back voluntarily, because he took an awful lot of the escape road in staying ahead of Wang Hao there. And you're not really supposed to do that. You can't really leave the track and gain an advantage, which is what Dong Liang would have been doing. So I'm not sure if Wang Hao made it through just with an ordinary pass or if Dong Liang let him through. But either way, Wang Hao now up into 3rd position, and again having a good race here. Clearly likes this track here, Wang Hao. Had a good race here yesterday, was holding 2nd for large portions of it, and now up into 3rd place. Still some way behind these two, however, with David Pan leading the race and Kuo Shin in 2nd place. And let's head down and hear more from Sophie in the pit lane.
好的，在我身旁是22号车组的 Will Bamber. So, Will, this is definitely probably the first time you are here in Tianjin circuit to take this race. Would you like to share with us your experience so far, and how is your start? Especially so far, car number 22 is on the 2nd position.
Yeah, so far it's been an amazing circuit coming to Tianjin, new one for us, but I'm really liking it, honestly. Some elevation changes, and obviously going to the street section at the back is really interesting as well. So really tough on the cars, actually, though. We've had a lot of brake wear here, and engine temperatures and oil temperatures are extremely high, so there's actually a lot of management going on today, I think, for all drivers. So I'll be fingers crossed all the way into the end to make sure we make it. My teammates did a brilliant job, so tracking down P1, so hopefully we can make it there and give everyone a good show towards the end.
Thank you so much. Well 呢，跟大家说了一下，就是其实呢，他自己是非常喜欢这条赛道的，因为有很多非常有趣的弯角。那同样呢，也是到目前为止他们的成绩是在第2，搭档呢郭国信也是一位非常经验十足的车手，所以呢，也希望将这样的一个成绩继续保持下去。Thank you one more time and cross back to your guys. 接下来转回到我们的解说间。
Yes, Will Bamber's teammate Kuo Shin There he is in the number 22 car in second position. A lot of debris on the track there. I wonder if that is a legacy of a bit of contact between Dong Liang and Wang Hao, or perhaps Chi Wen and Chris Chia. Let's see if we can see what's happening now. Well, now this is Dong Liang coming back on track. Now, we didn't see this at the time, but Dong Liang up the inside, and yes, there was contact there. So that was where Dong Liang's front left light was punched out with Wang Hao there. So Dong Liang didn't give the place back voluntarily. He went side by side with Wang Hao, and then Wang Hao made contact with the inside of Dong Liang, and there you see the legacy of that collision there. I wonder if we might need a yellow flag or a safety car to get rid of that, because lots of sharp pieces of debris on the track, and that could mean a puncture if somebody runs over it. So something to keep an eye on. But in any case, Dong Liang still in fourth place there, still running perfectly all right. Wang Hao ahead of him in third place, also perfectly all right. And Chris Chia now down to fifth position in the number 5 Phantom Pro Racing Mercedes. No sign at the moment of any yellow flags or any sign of the safety car, and looks as if there was a little bit of bodywork rubbing there on Dong Liang's car on his front left. So a little bit of contact there with Wang Hao might have put some of that front bodywork slightly out of joint. You can see towards the right-hand side of his car a little bit of bodywork just coming off to the side there, and his front splitter just lilting a little bit towards the left-hand side. If it was doing it anymore, it'd be not quite dragging on the floor, but I wonder if that is causing it, the bodywork to rub against his front left tyre. We saw some incidents of that earlier on yesterday, in yesterday's races, so that's something to keep an eye on. It certainly seems as if Dong Liang is travelling at racing speed at the moment, but he certainly won't want any more contact there. And it does definitely look as if his front splitter is just leaning slightly to one side. Not dragging on the ground, thankfully. And his last lap, a 1:48.4, which is somewhat at racing speed. He's lost over a second to Wang Hao on that last lap. But let's see what the lap times are for this lap. Wang Hao coming over the line, a 1:47.2. Dong Liang, a 1:49.1. And indeed, Chris Chia behind him, a 1:47.7. So Chris Chia catching him at the rate of over a second a lap. So perhaps Dong Liang is suffering a little bit with that little piece of bodywork damage that we see there. That might affect the aerodynamics as well, because that splitter at the front, that's very important for the airflow underneath the car. And if that's slightly damaged, then that's going to affect his handling. It means he's going to have less downforce and less grip. And you can see just, yes, when he goes through that right-hander there, just a little puff of smoke coming from the tyre. So clearly when he turns right, there's a little bit of friction there between the tyre and the bodywork. So that's not good news for Dong Liang. 10 minutes or just over 11 minutes of the race still to go. So if he still circulates at this sort of speed, well, he's only losing about a second a lap to those around him. I shouldn't think it's worth coming into the pits, unless, of course, that bodywork starts to fall apart and disintegrate and becomes dangerous, and then he will have to come and change his tyres or come in for some bodywork repair. But at the moment, David Pan still leading the race. That 618 Aston Martin has led pretty much from the first corner when Ross Gunn got the jump on Alex Fontana. David Pan has driven very well indeed to consolidate that lead. Guo Shin in second place there, 2.7 seconds behind David Pan, but not making any headway. David Pan's last lap, a 1:47.3, and Guo Shin's also 1:47.3. Wang Hao, the quickest man on the circuit at the moment, a 1:47.1 in third place. And Dong Liang crossing the line, a 1:48.7, so he's a little bit quicker than he was on the previous lap, but still losing time to Chris Chia, who's just set a 1:47.4. So Chris Chia still taking over a second a lap out of Dong Liang. The gap now between fourth and fifth, now 3 seconds, as we look at the first two. David Pan in the lead. Guo Shin in second place. and 10 minutes of the race to go. So David Punn and his teammate Ross Gunn really making up for a very, very disappointing race yesterday when they were punted off very early. But today's race could not have gone much better. They've led pretty much from the first flag, from the green light, where Ross Gunn got ahead, and he managed to stay ahead of Will Bamber, who's handed over to Guo Shin. And that D2 Racing Mercedes, the number 22 car, in second place for pretty much the duration of the race so far. David Punn still in the lead, a 1:47.1 that lap. Just dropped Will Guo Shin a little bit there. Guo Shin setting a 1:47.8, and the gap now up to 3.38 seconds. So 9 minutes of the race to go. Thankfully, no rain here this weekend in Tianjin, like we saw last time out in Qinhuangdao and at the previous couple of rounds in Shanghai. Both of those race weekends were disrupted and halted in some cases by the rain. We had races being called early just because the rain was so torrential that there was no hope for the drivers to continue. Drivers aquaplaning and spinning all over the place, and it's never nice to race in those conditions. But none of that today here at Tianjin. It's been very warm and sunny all weekend. As we look at Dong Liang, still in fourth place, and Chris Chia still catching him at the rate of about, well, over a second a lap. The gap was 3 seconds, it's now 1.8. So Dong Liang perhaps still struggling. You can see again there tiny puffs of smoke, obviously caused by the friction of that front left tyre against the bodywork, which is not quite in place as it should be. But Dong Liang still circulating at something approaching racing speed. A 1:48.6 his last lap, but Chris Chia hunting him down. A 1:47.4 for Chris Chia. And at this current rate, he should be in a position to catch and pass Dong Liang within the next couple of laps. And let's see if he can do that before the end of the race. 7.5 minutes to go. And the average lap time at the moment, a 1:48. So by my reckoning, that's 3 full laps, perhaps 4, we'll have to see. Chris Chia going very wide through the right-hander there. Dong Liang and Chris Chia approaching the chicane at turns 14 and 15. Take the curb on the exit, and then the double right-hander, turns 16 and 17. And then onto the start-finish straight to start lap 30 here at Tianjin. Chris Chia flashing his lights. The gap now 0.7 seconds. So Chris Chia taking another second out of Dong Liang on that last lap alone. So Chris Chia right up with Dong Liang now, and should be on this lap in a position to make a move and go for a pass. Getting very close through the tight double right-hander. That is turn 4, but these sweeping turns now. Look at the left front wheel as they go through here. You can see the smoke coming off the tyre there from the 570 McLaren. You can only really see it at that point on the track, and a big slide there from Chris Chia. I think perhaps he was taken a bit by surprise by how slow the McLaren was through that turn 9. Then he had to take evasive action, a big slide. Thankfully, everything perfectly all right as they go through the hairpin at turn 11, hard braking down there. Dong Liang doesn't seem to be suffering too much. You'd think with all the hard braking and tight corners that if he has got trouble with a bit of friction on that front left of his, that would be causing him some considerable jip through the slow corners. But it only seems to be through the sweeping right-hander at turn 6 that he seems to be suffering. And you can see when he goes through that corner, you can just see the steam and the smoke coming off that tyre as he goes very wide indeed through the escape road there at turn 13. This is the chicane, 14 and 15. Chris Chia still in 5th place. Dong Liang still in 4th, just over 5 minutes to go. And this is the beginning of lap 31. Dong Liang just having pulled out a little bit of a gap there now. Obviously, Chris Chia got that huge tank slapper on midway through turn 9, and that compromised his lap. This is Wang Hao having a very good race again in third place. No real chance of catching Kuo Kuo Shin because he is 28 seconds up the road, but Wang Hao some 8.3 seconds ahead of Dong Liang, whose main priority at the moment is not Wang Hao up at the front, but Chris Chia at the back. Now look at his front left tyre as they go through that corner. You just saw, it's not plumes of smoke or plumes of steam, but there's a little bit there, and that's not good news for Dong Liang. Meanwhile, this is the battle further down the field for 7th position. So Chi Wen in 7th place, trying to keep the 868 McLaren of Luo Kai Luo behind him. Luo involved in 2 incidents earlier in yesterday's race, and the stewards decreed him to have been at fault for both of them, and that's why you saw him both start at the back of the grid, or at the back of the field, and also take a drive-through penalty earlier in the race. So a pretty lowly 8th position for the 868 McLaren at the moment as a result of those 2 penalties. But one man not in a lowly position is this man, David Pun, because he is leading the race with just over 3.5 minutes to go. 4 seconds ahead of Kuo Kuo Shin, who took 1 second out of David Pun on that last lap. David Pun's last lap, a 1:47.9. Kuo Kuo Shin, a 1:47.1. And this is the battle. Dong Liang trying very hard to hold off Chris Chia now. Chris Chia getting very close to the back of Dong Liang. 2.7 seconds as they go over the line, but Dong Liang still holding that position as they go through the left-hander at the start. Dong Liang holding off Chris Chia. No way around there for Chris Chia. All that debris still on the track as Chris Chia goes to the inside, but nothing doing, no way through during the S's here. Dong Liang's front left tyre still smoking as he goes through the right-hander at turn 6. And now they come through the double left-hander again. Chris Chia getting a little bit crossed up there, and that is going to compromise this straight very badly indeed for him. You can see how much more space Dong Liang has now, and in fact Chris Chia now is being caught by Rainey He. So this 2-way battle will soon become a 3-way battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Rainey He just taking a very different line from Chris Chia. Chris Chia moving, is he moving out of the way to let Rainey He through? It looks as if he is. So a little bit of team orders at play there. Well, I say team orders, but Chris Chia is actually the team boss, so I think he can pretty much do what he likes. But clearly he's decided that Rainey He is faster than him at this stage of the race. And now let's see if Rainey He can succeed where Chris Chia has failed in trying to get past Dong Liang. We should be seeing the last lap board very shortly, just over 1.5 minutes to go. So Rainey He has about 2 laps, I should think, to try to overtake Dong Liang. And the gap as they cross the start-finish line is 1.4 seconds. And Chris Chia has dropped back quite a bit, now 2 seconds adrift of Rainey He. So Dong Liang still 4th, Rainey He still 5th. Chris Chia now down to 6th place. There is David Pun and the leader, well, David Pun the leader and Kuo Kuo Shin. Kuo Kuo Shin looking a little bit closer. David Pun just lost a bit of time on that last lap, a 1:48.1. Kuo Kuo Shin a 1:46.7. The gap now 2.6 seconds as the 87 car in the background gets out of the way very sensibly and lets the 2 leaders by. I wonder if David Pun's taking it easy, or maybe he had a little bit of a moment or had difficulty lapping a back marker, but in any case he's still leading the race. There it is, the last lap board. So this is it, the last lap of the race, and in fact David Pun has eked out another second over Kuo Kuo Shin. The gap now 3.6 seconds. So David Pun really now all he needs to do is stroke it home, not do anything silly, just look after the car, look after the tyres, don't lock anything up. And then David Punn will be taking the flag, and that looks like Dong Liang. So Dong Liang has stopped. I think it's Dong Liang, I can't see, it's one of the McLarens. Can't see which one just at the moment, but maybe that's Dong Liang having stopped with problems with that front left. Let's see what happens if we can see any of the other cars on the track. Well, no, there is Dong Liang, so Dong Liang is still in 4th place, so that must be the 868 McLaren having stopped, and Dong Liang still in 4th place, just holding off Rainey He. And Rainey He has to go for it this lap, so this is the real interest in the race at the moment. Can Rainey He, and he takes rather a lot of the curb on the inside, probably a little bit too much for his liking, but as they go through the S's, it is still Dong Liang in 4th place, Rainey He in 5th place, Chris Chia further behind in 6th, and this is the battle of the race so far. Dong Liang in 4th place. Can he keep Rainey He behind him? Rainey He looked as if he got good drive out of that last corner, and that could be critical. Can he get a run on Dong Liang, who is going very defensive into the hairpin? Rainey He going to the outside. Maybe he'll try the switch back. Dong Liang will have to go to the outside, and they touch. And Rainey He barging his way through as David Punn takes the checkered flag to win the race. Kuo Shin in 2nd place, but let's go and see if Rainey He made it past Dong Liang. You saw just as they approached, Rainey He indeed is in 4th place. Dong Liang took a bit of a whack there as Rainey He barged him out of the way, but thankfully no major harm done. Both cars still in the race. Dong Liang taking a lot of escape road there, as is Chris Chia behind, and the 87 back market in the background, but Rainey He taking 4th place on the last lap from Dong Liang there, as Wang Hao finishes in a very good 3rd place. A good result for Wang Hao and his team, and indeed it is Rainey He who comes across the line in 4th place. Dong Liang in 5th place, and Chris Chia in the background in 6th position. Well, quite a lot of action on that last lap there. Rainey He just making it past on the final lap as Luo Kailuo walking in. Disappointing for Luo Kailuo. That is 2 DNFs out of 2 races here in Tianjin, because of course he was involved in that 1st and 2nd lap incident in yesterday's round 9. So no points for the 868 McLaren this weekend. But for Ross Gunn and David Punn, a welcome fillip after yesterday's disappointment of not having any points, not managing to finish the race, having to retire on lap 2. But they certainly made it up for it today. A lights to flag victory for David Punn and Ross Gunn. Will Bamba and Kuo Shin in 2nd place, and I should think they'll be very pleased with that. A 3rd place and a 2nd place here at Tianjin this weekend represents a very solid weekend's work for Will Bamba and Kuo Shin and the D2 Racing Mercedes team. Another man with a very solid weekend's work is Wang Hao. He had a very good race yesterday, climbing up to 2nd place from 9th on the grid before ultimately having to settle for 4th. And today, again, climbing up from the back of the grid to 3rd place. So Wang Hao having overtaken several people in both races this weekend. And his reward now is a place on the podium. There you can hear the cheers and the applause. David Punn gets out of his car. Congratulations all round. Handshakes, back slaps, high fives. And most importantly from his teammate Ross Gunn. Ross Gunn, of course, set the tone for David Punn, gave him a nice lead, and David Punn was able to stroke it home. Never once headed in the race, David Punn. And a very good victory indeed. There is Kuo Shin, having finished in 2nd place. A good race for him and his teammate Will Bamba as well, as Wang Hao comes through to finish in 3rd position. So there's your top 3. Wang Hao gets out of his car. Oh, that is David Punn, sorry, and there is Wang Hao getting out of his car. Thumbs up, very pleased with his morning's work. And that, the device you see around his neck, that is the hands device, as David Punn receives the adulation of his team there. A fantastic win for David Punn and Ross Gunn. that is David Pun's first win in China GT so far this year. So all the more reason to celebrate. Ross Gunn only appeared at China GT this year for the first time at the last round in Qinhuangdao, so his first win of the season as well. But David Pun, heavily involved in just about every race so far this year. Missed the first round in Malaysia, but every other race he's appeared, and this is his first win, and has every reason to be delighted with things. Kuo Xin looking happy with his lot in second place as well. And David Pun taking on a lot of water there. It's very hot out there in Tianjin today, and an hour's racing in this searing heat can be very hard work indeed. Very important to keep your hydration levels up. There is the car of Kuo Xin and Will Bamber, the number 22 D2 Racing Mercedes. That car finishing in second place. And we'll be hearing from the winners very shortly indeed. Ross Gunn and David Pun just having the debrief there with their engineers. And they'll no doubt want to continue this momentum into the next round in Shanghai. Confirmation then of the final results. Ross Gunn and David Pun winning the race. Will Bamber, Kuo Xin in second place. Wang Hao in a very promising third position. Fourth, after that last lap, do-or-die lunge at turn 11, is Rainey He and Yang Shi. Down to fifth was Charlie Fagg and Dong Liang after being overtaken on the last lap there. Alex Fontana and Chia, after winning yesterday's race, only sixth today. Chi Pei Wen in seventh place. In eighth place, Gao Yang and Wei Tianyi. And in ninth place, the only car not to finish, the 868 McLaren of Luo Kailuo and Lei Ke. So, a very good weekend for Ross Gunn and David Pun. Well, a very good Sunday at least. Saturday wasn't so happy, but they've rebounded in the best possible way, as the 868 McLaren just being taken away by the rescue truck there. The safety car and the medical car going past as well. Thankfully, we didn't have to worry about any safety car periods today. And the debris on the track there, which coincidentally is the same corner that the McLaren is waiting at, just being swept away. That looks like a low-tech solution, using the broom there, but often when there's a lot of debris on the track, that's the best and most efficient way of clearing it all in a hurry. I wondered if we might need a safety car or a yellow flag just to clear that debris away, but thankfully it didn't seem to affect any of the drivers too much. We didn't see any punctures or anything of that nature. Not quite sure why the 868 McLaren stopped on the last lap. Didn't see what happened there, but disappointing weekend for that car, as David Pun and Ross Gunn's car just being pushed away. No tyre stops this morning for any of the drivers either. We sometimes see that in China GT, especially when it's very, very hot, as it was, for example, in Malaysia and Sepang for the opening couple of rounds way back in March. But no tyre stops for any of the cars and drivers today. And the top three cars being wheeled out onto the track now. Unusually, the podium ceremony takes place actually on the track. And now let's take a look at some of the best action from this morning's race in the GT4 category. Well, a fantastic win for Ross Gunn and David Pun. Will Bamba and Guo Guoxin in second place, and Wang Hao in third position, and those will be your top three drivers on the podium. We'll cut to the podium ceremony in just a moment. The cars lining up on the grid there, the top three cars, and the podium taking place just next to it, so all very close to the action. Nice for the spectators to see the cars and drivers very close to the action. We'll have more action for you this afternoon in the combined GT3, GTC and One Make Trophy grid. But this morning was all about GT4. Everybody just getting ready for the podium ceremony now. And nice for the spectators to see the cars and drivers close up. At other tracks, sometimes the podium ceremony is set a long way away, but not so much here in Tianjin. And let's go down to the grid now.
好，在这里呢，祝贺在我身旁的618号车组两位车手潘君凌和 Rose Gunn 是获得了我们的第二回合 GT4 组别的冠军。Starting from you, Rose, congratulations for both of you, especially from you, Rose, because for starting the whole race in a pretty good mood and talk us through the very beginning, especially your fantastic overtaking move.
Yeah, so I managed to get a little bit of a jump at the start, managed to react to the lights perfectly, and then into turn one I realised I had a bit of a lead, so I managed to cut across into the lead, and then from there the car was really, really good. After yesterday's damage that we sustained, the guys stayed up till very late to make sure the car was fixed, and that was a really good job in terms of making sure the car was good. And then yeah, my stint was fairly simple, just try and put out consistent laps, pass the car over to David in a really solid place, and then he just completed the job with a really fine stint. Didn't put a foot wrong, no mistakes, and that's, as a driver that's come here to try and help him out and coach him, that's all I can ask, and he's done an amazing job.
Thank you so much, Rose. Rose 呢，跟大家分享了一下，其实呢，对于他来说，今天他的这个起步呢是非常不错的，因为身旁呢的这辆我们从杆位发车的5号车组呢，顺利在他第一弯就已经能够超过，拿下了这个第一的领先优势。接下来潘君凌呢也是做出了非常稳定的发挥。想问一下潘君凌，其实呢我们说冠军值得等待，尤其是经过昨天的比赛之后，看你已经是累得不行了，是吧？那这场比赛是不是一场体力要求真的是非常高的比赛，以及获胜是不是真的是这周末最好的天津站的总结？
对这一场就是我真的觉得这超了，你看我的脸都是红番茄。但是我 Ross 真的跑得很厉害，第一个圈都已经可以过那个杆位的那个车手，然后我就是只是守住，就是稳住。但是对我来说吧，因为我有可能运动不够，就是那个，但是就是稳住，不做那个错误，就完成了。所以我们真的很兴奋，第一次拿到第一就是全第一吧。
非常感谢，非常感谢，也祝贺你潘君凌。David just summarizes, as you can see, it's a very physical, demanding race based on the face color, just like a tomato. And this time, just thanks his teammate Rose, did a pretty fantastic job at the very beginning, and very happy to take the first champion for the whole season in Tianjin this weekend. Thank you one more time. Enjoy the victory for both of you. 再次祝贺两位，享受你们的胜利。接下来时间将我们的现场转交回解说间 Crossback to your guys.
Well, it may have looked like an easy victory for Ross Gunn and David Pun, but as David said just then, obviously his face tells a different story. Very pleased for them that they've got their first win of the 2019 China GT season. David Pun, a regular in the China GT Championship for some time now, and you could see just what it meant to him and his team to get that first win under their belts. The car obviously working very well, as Ross Gunn alluded to, with no weight penalty, but of course next round they'll have 50 kilograms to contend with, and it'll be interesting to see how they do that as we cut back now to Sophie.
好，在我身旁的22号车组的两位车手，Will Bamba 以及郭国信呢是拿下 GT4 组别的亚军。Starting from you, Will, because we know that we have because the sequence, the other car also taken by the professional drivers, and 2 podium finish this weekend. Summarizes this weekend for all of us.
Yeah, overall a really good weekend for us. I think that takes us to being the highest point scorer for the weekend, so we'll take that. So P3 and P2, really good for the championship team, and my teammate drove an awesome race today. Super hot and a lot to manage with the brakes and the water temperatures of the car, so luckily no limp mode today for us, so the boys did an awesome job overnight to try and help that problem. So, yeah, I don't know what the points happened now, but looking forward to the final race of the year. It's been a fantastic year, my first with the D2, so really stoked, and let's see what the final brings.
Thank you so much, Will. 那 Will 跟大家分享了一下，其实呢，今天的这场比赛呢，尤其是这周末的比赛，2场都能站上领奖台，一次第3，一个第2，拿到了很多有效积分。也不知道现在在车手积分榜上的排名是怎样的，不过相信在上海的收官之战将会有更好的表现。过信。因为昨天也没机会跟你聊，这一次来到天津站，就上一站的时候你就说了，你自己真的拼了老命在开啊。那这一站比赛的时候，尤其是今天拿到就是第2的这个成绩，是不是也是拼尽了全力？因为尤其是在最后，是不是很希望能够超过前面的车组啊？
今天也还好，因为一开始我们进就领先就第2嘛，然后就是我们的车子的水温过高，然后车队的指示说把速度降下来，那我想说，那就轻松了啊，我们要轻松跑就好了，然后就很开心就得到第2名，谢谢。
非常感谢信。So Xin mentioned about when his turn, when he is driving, the water temperature is a little bit high, so the team just gave his direction not to drive so fast, so just keep your status. One more time, thank you one more time, and congratulations, enjoy the weekend. 再次祝贺2位，接下来是尖叫我们现场转交会解说间 Cross Spectator guys.
Well, Will Bamber and Kuo Shin might not have won a race this weekend, having finished 3rd and 2nd, but as Will Bamber said, that does make him the highest point scorer overall this weekend, and with the GT4 point standings very finely balanced as a sort of 4-horse race at the top between Alex Fontana, Chia, Rainey He and Will Bamber, that is certainly going to help Will Bamber's cause in the championship very much indeed. Liang and Rainey He there giving a wave. And of course they finished in 4th place on the last lap after a little bit of wheel banging with Dong Liang. Rainey He forcing his way through. Some close racing this morning here in the GT4 category. Thankfully, nothing too over the top. No safety cars required. It's always nice to see a good, clean race. 1 hour of close racing between everybody. Lots of passing and repassing. And nobody wants to see a race neutralised by a safety car, or indeed anybody getting involved in a big accident. So, that was the GT4 round this morning. Later on this afternoon, we'll have GT3 and GTC and the One Make Trophy category. There was plenty of excitement in that category yesterday. Thankfully, no rain again this weekend. It's been bright sunshine, as you can see, yesterday and today. Unlike in Qinhuangdao and in Shanghai at the previous couple of stops on the China GT calendar, where it was very, very wet indeed at various points over the weekend. And we even had to have several races being postponed or being suspended because the conditions were just so bad. Let's recap on today's results. The winning car, Ross Gunn and David Pun. In 2nd position, Will Bamber and Kuo Shin. 3rd position, Wang Hao. And those are your top 3 that we'll be seeing on the podium very shortly. 4th place, after that last lap move, Rainey He and Yang Shi. And now let's go to the podium ceremony.
2019赛季中国超级跑车锦标赛天津站第2回合 GT4 组的颁奖仪式。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium ceremony of GT4 Class at the Round 2 of China GT Championship 2019 Tianjin。首先，让我们有请本场的冠军车队，来自于魅影车队 ，the winning team of the class， 魅影车队 ，the Fontana Pro Racing Team。 有请本场第3名车手组合来自于 Team Master Champ Wang Hao。The second round goes to from Team Master Champ Wang Hao。有请本场第2名车手组合来自于 D2 车队 Will Bamber 和郭国信。The first runner-up goes to from D2 Racing Will Bamber and 郭国信。有请本场的冠军车手组合来自于 BSEM Asia Master Racing 潘君琳和 Rose Gun。The champion is from BSEM Master Martin Racing David Pan and Rose Gun。有请我们的颁奖嘉宾来自于米其林亚太赛事总监马奔先生。Let's welcome our president to the award top 3rd place getters from Michelin Asia Pacific Motorsport Director Mr. Ma Ben。好的，感谢我们的颁奖嘉宾。那接下来留给我们车手的是香槟的时间。Now is the champagne time。那么接下来我们将继续为您进行的是2019赛季中国超级跑车锦标赛天津站 GT4 Pro M 组第2回合的颁奖仪式。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium ceremony of the GT4 PA Class at the Round 2 of the China GT Championship 2019 Tianjin。让我们有请本场的第3名车手组合，来自于魅影车队何享乐和杨希。The second runner-up goes to from Fontana Pro Racing, He Xiaolou and Yang Xi。 有请本场第2名车手组合来自于 D2 车队 Wang Bamber 和郭国信。The first runner-up goes to from D2 Racing, Wang Bamber and 郭国信。有请本场的冠军车手组合来自于 BSEM Aston Martin Racing 潘君琳和 Rose Gunn。The champion is from BSEM Aston Martin Racing, David Pan and Rose Gunn。那么让我们有请本场的颁奖嘉宾来自于凯比丹斯亚洲区董事长何明玉女士。Let's welcome our prisoner to the award top 3 place getters, the director of Carpet Dance Asia, Miss Rainey He。好的，感谢我们的颁奖嘉宾。那接下来留给我们车手的是香槟的时间。Now is the champagne time。稍后我们会去我们的新闻发布会。欢迎您继续回到我们的2019赛季中国超级跑车锦标赛天津站 GT4 AM 组的第2回合的颁奖仪式。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podium ceremony of GT4 AM Class at the Round 2 of China GT Championship 2019 天津。让我们有请本场的第3名车手组合来自于 Extreme Motorsport 高阳和魏天一。The second run-up goes to from Extreme Motorsport 高阳 and 魏天一。有请本场的第2名车手组合来自于 FISIM AI 齐佩文。The first run-up goes to from FISIM AI 齐佩文。有请本场的冠军车手组合来自于 Team Master Champ Wang Hao。The champion is from Team Master Champ Wang Hao。让我们有请本场的颁奖嘉宾来自于凯比丹斯品牌设计总监 Aaron Peterson。Let's welcome our president to award top 3 place getters, Mr. Aaron Peterson, the chief designer officer of Carpet Dance。 谢我们的颁奖嘉宾呢，留给我们车手的是香槟的时间。Now is the champagne time.
要不要抱小朋友过去拍照？
应该能回来。到那个，等着我回去看吧。
好的，那在刚刚非常精彩的颁奖仪式结束之后呢，我们今天下午的比赛还有一场即将进行，那是 GT3 和 GTC 两个组别的同场较量，将会有1个小时的时间。那让我们一起在1点45分的时候呢，我们将会有开幕典礼，紧接开幕典礼的就是我们非常精彩的比赛，不要走开。Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please do stay tuned with us because we still have one more race to go at 1:45. At that time, we have a opening ceremony, and afterwards we still have one more race to go. Stay tuned with us. See you very soon this afternoon.
好，那恭喜祝你。